Ukraine.
Madam President, let me join previous speakers in thanking you for organizing today's open debate on the protection of civilians in armed conflicts through UN peacekeeping and other relevant missions. We find it timely and topical one. Madam President, while taking note of some positive developments outlined in the Secretary General's latest report on the issue of protection of civilians in armed conflict, the delegation of Ukraine remains concerned with the fact that civilians continue to account for the vast majority of casualties in current conflicts. They are regularly targeted and subject to indiscriminate attacks and other violations by parties to conflict. Madam President, protection of civilians is a mandate task that requires coordinated actions in all spheres of PKO's activities, including the United Nations police component. While this protection is a core element of international policing, it also requires a close alignment with the work of PKOs in its strategy of civilians protection. The United Nations Police provides operational support to the host state police on the issue of civilians protection under the imminent threat. In addition, UN Police assists in planning and conducting operations and investigations, training the host state police forces to perform crucial protection functions, which inter alia include maintaining secure environment in camps of internally displaced persons. Ongoing conflict in South Sudan has led to the need of accommodation for thousands of civilians who were placed in the UN shelters. UN MIS police officers were directly involved in the protection of civilians in these camps by maintaining public order and conducting physical checks. Having the third largest contingent of individual police officers there, Ukraine reaffirms its commitment to further support the United Nations mission in South Sudan and considers the possibility to increase the number of its police officers. Ukraine strongly believes that the host state police may contribute to the protection of civilians by preventing and overcoming direct physical violence, in particular sexual abuse. Policemen of the host state should receive a special training to be able to perform the duties mentioned above. I would like to underline that the special attention needs to be given to the vulnerable groups of society, including children, women, and elder persons, as well as national, ethnic, religious, and other minorities, along with displaced population, when defining and implementing such activities in PKOs and when identifying security needs. Ukraine has always been an active supporter of the UN efforts aimed at protecting women and girls in armed conflicts. Our government strongly supports all Security Council resolutions on women. We welcome commitments of the G8 on enhancing efforts to address impunity for sexual violence in conflicts, including the endorsement of the development of an international protocol of investigation and documentation of sexual violence in conflict. In September 2013, Ukraine signed up to the Declaration of Commitment to End Sexual Violence in Conflict. Madam President, we consider demining operations to be another important area related to protection of civilians in armed conflicts. Ukraine has an extensive experience in demining and possesses modern technologies in this area. Our advanced logistic bases allow training of highly skilled specialists within a short period of time. Ukraine mine clearance engineers are widely recognized in the world, including the Balkan region, Africa, and the Middle East. Our units operate under the standards and operational procedures of the United Nations, and we are ready to provide technical support and share our experience within the United Nations peacekeeping missions. Madam President, turning back to the South Sudan, I would like to draw your attention to the recent developments that have shown the absence of necessary means for carrying out fast response rescue operations of civilians in case of an emergency. It proves that there is a pressing need to take decisions on immediate concentration of rescue units, especially military and civil helicopters, in a particular place to fulfill rescue operations. Last December, 3 of our helicopters were gunfired while rescuing civilians and UN employees in South Sudan, and thanks to pilots' professionalism, there were no human casualties. However, it had become evident that in order to avoid or at least significantly decrease possible casualties in the future, the United Nations has to equip the rescue helicopters with additional protection, such as bulletproof, bottom, anti-ballistic and anti-missile protection, reinforced rescue hoists, fixing full medical equipment on board, night vision goggles for night operations. For example, we believe that the helicopters could have avoided a gun shooting if they performed their operation at night by using the night vision goggles. We consider that the UN helicopters must be versatile, multifunctional, and rapidly convertible into any version depending on a flight task: passenger or cargo transportation, medical or casualty evacuation, search and rescue operations. A team of professional rescuers and the medical staff is also to be included into the crew, plus an ambulance vehicle to transport injured people to the nearest medical facility. We believe that the above-mentioned modifications to helicopters will assist UN peacekeeping missions to provide protection of civilians in armed conflict in more efficient and safe manner. In November 2013, Ukraine held a special briefing presentation on the functionality of UN helicopters, and this March we're planning to convene another presentation focusing on UN multitask and convertible helicopter in order to provide protection for civilians in armed conflicts. Thank you.
The representative of Ukraine. I now give the floor to the Deputy Permanent Observer of the Observer State of Palestine.